Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Building the Black Educator Pipeline podcast. I am your host, Shana Terrell, educator, activist dedicated to the lifelong struggle of freedom and liberation for her people. Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome back. Shout out to all my co-conspirators who come back week after week to watch and support, and a special shout out to all my new supporters that are joining and watching us today. As always, I need to say in this month, happy Black History Month. But you know, here at Building a Black Educator Pipeline, Black History is a 365-day vibe for us. It goes beyond 1 month. But shout out to everybody celebrating Black History Month. And a huge shout out to Citizens Ed and the Center for Black Educator Development for creating this platform for us to talk to real people in the real struggle, doing the real work. So today's thing, we're going to be talking about building a Black educator pipeline and quality teaching. Today, we'll discuss a plethora of things, but really what's important is writing a new narrative for our young people. Talking about evidence-based learning in the profession and STEM education. I'm really excited for our guests to be joining us today. Today, joining us, we'll have Peggy Brookins, NBCT, which means Nationally Board Certified Teacher. As she is, but she's also the president and CEO of the National Board for for Professional Teaching Standards. Former NBTS board member, Ms. Brookins, also joined the National Board and Executive Vice President in December 2014 and was named president and CEO in November 2015. Her long career as an educator includes many nationally named leadership positions and accolades. In July 2014, President Barack Obama named Ms. Brookins as a member of the President's Advisory Commission on Education Excellence for African Americans. She came to the National Board from the Engineering and Manufacturing Institute of Technology at Forest High School in Ocala, Florida, which she co-founded in 1994 and where she served as director and as mathematics instructor. She has served on a plethora of boards for organizations focused on education and STEM education as well. So please welcome to Building a Black Educator Pipeline, Miss Peggy Brookins.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing.
This is amazing that you are here. Shout out to you. Again, I want to let folks know, I usually read people's bios, but if I tell y'all the number of boards that Ms. Brookins has served on, past and present, and the impact of her work, I would have been here reading forever because she is out here actually doing the work, y'all. So, Ms. Brookins, we appreciate you stopping by and visiting us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you for the invite.
Of course. So we generally like to start off talking to our guests to really ask them what inspired them to become educators. Like, what put you on the path on your journey to be an educator?
That's kind of a funny story because as a kid, I always got in trouble in school. And I remember it was clearly in ninth grade one day, and my history teacher was going over some history, and he was talking about the Holocaust. And he and I were just going back and forth. And I was asking questions, throwing facts at him, and he would say something to me. And finally, he looked at me and he said, "Young lady, either you're going to be a teacher or a lawyer." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to choose the noble profession. I think I'll be a teacher." So that was kind of my inspiration and how I came to the profession. But I think it was something that I thought of early because I'm like those other kids that used to line your brothers and sisters up and have them have school. Or when you arrived home from school and you sat at the table after school, and I would read to my little sister because she's so much younger, and my little brother, and played school all the time. And I thought, I think I'd like this.
That's awesome. I love that story. And again, yours, like so many others, somebody actually said to you, right? Like, young lady, you're going to be this or you're going to be this. But someone saw it in you to actually be a teacher. I think that's amazing. And I remember too, like just loving to play school, that love of learning and teaching others ways of learning, I think is super awesome and super dope. But Ms. Brookins, you are a nationally board certified teacher. I think that folks hear that and like, what's that? So can you tell us a little bit about what the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards is?
Sure. When you say what's that, I think of it as the most transformational thing I have done in my education career, bar
Mm,
none. No degree, no anything, because it's a performance assessment. So our mission is to advance the quality of teaching and learning, and we do that with a set of standards around what teachers should know and be able to do. And then, the third piece of our mission is to integrate that into the educational landscape. And we're talking about policy. And we think about, we get our initial licensure when we come, but, we've talked about theory. We've not experienced it. We've not been the teacher of record, and nor have we been in front of a class to prove that, yes, we have this deep content knowledge and pedagogy, and that, we know how to differentiate. We can integrate what we know within a classroom. We get to know our students first, because you cannot teach who you do not know. And
mm,
then at the same time, teachers make so many critical decisions every moment of the day. And how do you look at all this data that's coming at you? How do you disaggregate it? How do you have literacy around assessments? And how do you put all of this together in a changing world that's so full of information and make the right decisions for the students in front of you? So the process of board certification is a performance assessment. You have to prove not that you read something, but you can implement those standards within your classroom, and you have to see what the impact has been. Meaning, think about teaching a lesson, and then how do you know kids learned it?
mm,
What are you going to do, and how do you assess that piece, and how do you know they even retain it and transfer it? So board certification for me was a way of really being intentional in the classroom in ways that I had not thought about before, by marrying the five core propositions of what teachers should know and be able to do with a set of standards around mathematics and what really intentional instruction looks like in a classroom, coupled with rigor and deep content knowledge. And, that's a high level of what the national board is. But it was one of those things where, I'm old, so I had taught a number of years before national board ever existed, came about in 1987. And therefore, there's a clear delineation between before I was board certified and after. And I can
mm.
see that in my students, and I can see it in myself. And thinking about, I was successful before, but this was like being on steroids. What I learned, what I was able to do, the performance assessment, and it's something that never leaves you. It's like riding a bike.
I think it's amazing. And the reason, as you're talking, as I'm thinking about it, it separates that theory, from the practice, meaning you have to prove that this is something that you can do. You have to
Yes,
prove that you can teach. But beyond just the word teach, you have to prove that you can connect with kids. You have to
yes.
prove that you can actually get results with students. You have to prove your proficiency and your content knowledge. I think that that's amazing. And what it makes me think about sometimes when we think about education and the teaching profession, in comparison to other professions, I don't know if other professions, let's take a surgeon, right? For instance, they would let a surgeon read all of these books and take all of these tests and say, now, uncertified, go out
Right.
and perform your heart surgery. Let's see how many people you kill before we say that you're not a certified teacher. I love that the fact that to be a board certified teacher, what it actually puts into practice is like you actually know what you're doing, and we're going to certify and stamp that you're doing that. So I think that is amazing, and I love to hear how you're comparing like who I was before and then who I was after, and what you point out is the difference in the children. Can you talk about that? What did you see in the difference of the children before and after you were board certified?
So I'm thinking about, most of us, when we went to school, we were trained in a certain way. And if you think about Stigler and Hebert's, the teaching gap, it's not the teacher, it's the teaching. And so most of us teach the way we were taught. So I was teaching the way I was taught. Kids were in a row. I was doing all the work, talking all the time, and they were regurgitating things to me, and nobody was asking, why are we learning this? When am I going to use this? And why does it even matter? It was like, here's a curriculum, here's a set of standards the state has given you, and here's a book, and let's get through, 500 pages in 180 days. And that's what it was before. And then after, it was like, why? Everything was why. And so, you look at kids and you think, do they really need to know that? Can they learn that in a transference? Is this knowledge connected in ways that make sense to them, or something that they want to learn? And then you think about, why would they want to learn this, and how can I make this so interesting, and ask the right questions, because I know who they are now. I know what their hopes, dreams, and aspirations are. I know what they want to be, where they want to go. And let's make lessons now that focus on them and focus on their needs and what they want to do and who they want to become. And that is the major difference, because now you can see those students became those things because of the experience and the rigor that they were exposed to, versus not having that experience and rigor and going through a standard teach to the middle of the class.
I think that's awesome in terms of that shift that happened. But what to point out is the shift happened because that practice, that pouring into you, and you kind of, revving up your craft and what that can actually do for students in the classroom. What I'm also hearing, like hearing you talk, is it's amazing because of the way you're talking about learning for students. I think a lot of times when we talk about support or training for teachers, or we're talking about professional development, it is very teacher facing conversation. It's very like what the teacher needs to do, what the teacher needs to be trained to do, which sometimes is very absent, or is a disconnect between what we actually need to be doing for the benefit of students. Sometimes they talk about teachers like very absent, like from the classroom. Like they're going to teach kids, right? So we don't attach um, those techniques. I think what is great to hear, what I hear a lot about being nationally board certified, is that it's considered one of the most respected certifications in the field. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because of what you actually have to go through when you read those standards. And we have a little booklet called the what. It used to be called the What book, and we call it now What Teachers Should Know and Be Able to Do. And it is the 5 core propositions. So it is, teachers are committed to their students and their learning. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those to their students. They monitor and manage their learning. They learn. Teachers also learn from, their own learning, and then they're members of learning communities. So when you couple all of that together, and then you look at a set of standards of what does rigor look like in a classroom? What does it look like to have a student learn something that they can apply and transfer? And putting all of that together. And I think, we always start off with, who are these students and what are their needs and how am I meeting those needs? But I still have to learn who they are first. And all of those lessons are created based on who they are and what interests they have. So it's one of those things like, would I want to jump out of bed every morning and come do this? You want them to be able to jump out of bed and come do this.
Mm-hmm. And be committed again,
Yes.
that joint learning, like we're committed to do this and we're doing this together. I'm hearing a lot too in your dialogue, especially when you talk about the 5 propositions, that teachers are a part of learning communities. You hear that sometimes, and when I've heard learning communities, sometimes it's been sometimes based on affinity groups, or talking about race. But what I'm seeing with being national board certified, you're really you're really pushing teachers to be in a learning community constantly. which means that the practice never stops, the learning never stops for them. In what ways do you think that being nationally board certified pushes teachers into like an evidence-based learning profession?
Well, one of the things you think about constantly is best practice. And you don't know everything. No one does. And
Mhm.
you reach out to your community. And there's another aspect to that as well around students, because I can't know everything about a student, but a student may be different in English than they are in physics. And how do I communicate with that teacher around a strength or a weakness? And then you think about parents, and parents are their first teachers. Parents know and spend so much time with their own children that, you gather information from parents in the conversations that you have with them as well. So anybody that knows anything about this student, that is your community. That is who you collaborate with. And to make sure that you know every aspect about this whole child that is coming to you.
Got you. So a lot of times, especially on this show, we talk about how we feel like every child deserves a black teacher. Um, we think every child deserves a black teacher because of the impact that black teachers have on black children. The work you're doing, though, proves that like every child definitely deserves a black teacher, but every child should strive, or every classroom, every school should strive to have quality black teachers. Why should they be striving to do that? Meaning having just a black teacher, but a qualified black teacher. What impact could that have on our black children?
Well, a qualified black teacher or a qualified any teacher, I'll say that. Everybody that we put in front of our children should be qualified. And I think about the fact that all the research, we're 35 years old now, and all the research that we've done, and people have researched us and researched us. And everything that comes out of that shows that students are affected by board certified teachers. The impact is much greater. And the impact of having a teacher of color who is board certified is even greater than that,
Hmm.
not just even on children of color, but on all
Children.
children.
Yes.
So it really makes a difference when I would love to have a board certified teacher in every single classroom.
Hmm.
And, that is my goal. People may call it crazy, but to have 1 million board certified teachers by 2030, it can happen. Policy can make that happen. And, it is our goal to make sure, we are trying to diversify this profession, and at the same time, make sure that diversification includes the diversity of who is standing in front of the classroom, so that those students see those mirrors and understand that, yes, I can be this, that sense of belonging. And I think, there's nothing more exciting than walking in, even as adults, walking into a room and feeling warmth, feeling like you belong there, feeling like you want, people want you in that room, or they light up when you walk in. That's what I got from my grandmother. And that
Hmm.
is something no one can ever take away from you, ever, to say, I'm walking in a room and she just would light up because I'm there. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to be there,
Yeah.
and she would be happy. And that, can you imagine the learning that would take place if that was a part of, what teachers did on a daily basis? National board teachers do that.
And I mean, it's exciting to hear, right? But you bring up an excellent point. You bring up policy as a barrier to that. And my mind is spinning now and wondering, like, how do we fight to make sure that this is something that teachers go to? Because again, it's something that is excellent and beneficial for students. But being nationally board certified is something that sounds like a phenomenal experience, a life changing experience for teachers. So to be able to know and to prove that you have impact, to be able to be connected to resources that is going to constantly improve your craft, but knowing that you're going to walk into a classroom and be successful every day because of what you went through with that process. I mean, I can't imagine the feeling that I would have as a teacher, knowing, oh, I'm nationally board certified, or I went through this very rigorous program to be able to go ahead and teach. Meaning, people go through 4 years of college. Some people get their master's degrees. We have people who have doctorates in education and cannot teach, which
Right.
is which is extremely problematic. So to have a program that is really tailored to the need of what it means to be a teacher to affect change in students, I feel like is phenomenal. Are there any policies and things right now that you think that folks can kind of grasp onto or hang on to push in their particular states to push education spaces or districts towards implementing some nationally board certified strategies or standards?
Yes, there are a number of states who are using their gear funding, they're using their ARP funding right now to support teachers in the process of board certification. So that means not only supporting the process of going through board certification, but the support needed as you do that. And, we have 75 networks around the country who do candidate support programs that you think about the medical field and you think about the minute that somebody enters medical school, the expectation is that you will take your boards. This is not something that's new or maybe I'll think about it, but that is the expectation. And that is the expectation that we would want the North Star for teachers to be board certification. But the difference is that in medicine, there clearly are articulated steps in place for them to reach that. Those supports are given daily for doctors to become board certified. And I think that's something we need to do for teachers. They do the most important job around. Nobody can be a doctor without a teacher. And you think about,
Yes.
the supports that should be in place for teachers as they go through this process. The knowledge base is changing so quickly right now that every chance you get to enhance your set of heuristics, you might want to say, it should be valued and supported and paid for. And then as you go through that process, you should be incentivized for doing that and offered positions of leadership for doing that, or shared leadership, to make sure that every step of the way, everyone is focused on how can we improve our craft and how can we impact students.
I love the incentivizing of being nationally board certified and tying it um, to leadership positions. I love that. I think that's an excellent idea. It's something that, as a district, if you're an administrator, if you're owner of a school, this is something that you should be striving to do or to be, to have nationally board certified teachers, to support them in doing it and then incentivizing them to go through the programming. I think that's a phenomenal idea.
And we have states who are doing that right now. California just implemented, as part of policy, they put in $250 million in support of teachers, meaning paying for the process, paying for the support, and paying to incentivize teachers going through it. You look at states like Maryland with their new blueprint that
Hmm.
does the same thing and implemented a career ladder in which teachers have the ability to move up on that ladder should they choose to do so, and share leadership to actually, be in the classroom, 1 foot there, 1 foot in leadership, or to go to leadership totally. But there's supports there to say, I want to be a leader that supports teachers who are in the classroom or supports teachers who are going through this process, but everything flows through that. And if you take it and you think about the back mapping of the national board standards all the way back to the EdTPA standards that are for pre-service teachers, there is that, continuum that we think about. How do we codify this continuum to think about a common language around what teachers should know and be able to do?
Be able to do. Yeah, one of our viewers commented from Maryland and was saying you can require nationally board certified teachers for tenure. That's going on and that's happening in Maryland. So,
Yes.
as you say, there are some states who are like leading the way and taking those steps to make sure that teachers are supported. And it's funny, right? Because a lot of times, right, we talk about states and districts. I mean, professional development is like shoved down people's throats, right? Weekly PD, daily PD, sign up for this PD, go to this conference, like all of those things, right? But do we
I
really sit
call it Dusty PD.
Why do you call it Dusty PD?
Because once they get back to their classroom, they take what they had, they put it on a shelf, and it collects dust.
Dusty PD. I agree with that. A lot of our
Uh,
teachers are pushed into Dusty PD.
right. If it is not something you can implement immediately for your students, you're never going to use it.
Hmm. And I think
So
teachers
that's the
say that
one
all the
thing
time.
about board certification. It focused directly on those students who are in front of you right now, not the ones you wish you had, not the ones you had last year, none of those, just on the kids in front of you.
And I love that. The fact that it's something that you can implement right now. And I'm just thinking, like, teachers are always, I remember when I was in K-12, teachers are always asking for development that they can like feel, understand, or implement right away. And not necessarily looking for a quick fix or a quick solution. Like they want to be better at the craft. So I love the term Dusty PD because I'm pretty sure they've went to numerous amounts of PDs and boom, on the shelf, or had some type of new strategy to implement, did one practice session with their supervisor, and then boom, never tried to use or implement that again because it is something that speaks to them, that makes them successful, or kind of sparks them to improve their craft. And it sounds like there's a large learning community by being a nationally board certified teacher, and you always hear teachers asking for leadership and PD from other teachers, or asking from leadership and PD from other content experts. And it sounds like having, again, a network of nationally board certified teachers, that's what teachers will have access to. But that's what folks are screaming for. That's what they're asking for. So definitely get on that policy, y'all, in y'all states, and let it be delivered. Okay,
Absolutely.
let it be delivered. But I wanna go back to this impact of a black teacher because Ms. Brookins, you were a black teacher for many years, correct?
38.
38 years in the classroom. Again, someone like you is why, again, people are like, oh, we got to come talk to see Ms. Brookins because you've led the craft, you've done the job, you've done the work, and you've done it over a numerous amount of decades. Um, for one, I want to shout you out because it's Black History Month, and we give a lot of homage and pay a lot of homage to people who we like know are in the public eye, but folks like you who have been doing the work now for years are a part of history and a part of building the fabric of this education system and continuing to fight for our families and our children. So I want to say thank you for your service and the work that you put in education. It is greatly appreciated, and I'm a
Thank
big
you.
proponent of giving folks their flowers while they're here. So thank you for the work that you have put in, that you continue to put in for us.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
But I want to talk about someone special, meaning being a black teacher like sometimes has its perks. We just saw with Quinta Brunson in Abbott Elementary, the homage she's paying to her teacher, Miss Joyce Abbott. And shout out to Miss Joyce Abbott. Hopefully we'll have her on the show coming up in a couple weeks. Fingers crossed. But you too, Ms. Brookins, has made an impact on someone very, very special, who's in the public eye right now. I would love for you to talk about who that is.
Oh, yeah, my girl, Erin Jackson. History making, first African American woman, speed skater, gold medal. She was on the Today Show this morning. Erin was in our engineering magnet school. Erin became a computer science engineer. While she was training, Erin decided, oh, I think I'll do some other learning while I'm here. And so she has decided to get a degree in kinesiology, as well as teaching herself to code. And then putting that trichotomy of science and STEM together to understand it. And if you think about her material science background and what she learned and how excited she got. I remember us going to the University of Florida and they have an electron microscope. And the day that she saw what your teeth really look like under the microscope, because people think they're one piece and they're actually a set of microscopic rods. That's why they're so strong. And to
Mm.
think about, what material science engineers do, and everything starts with physics. And then we think about, okay, here's how you make it. And then what do we make it out of? Under what conditions? Will it fail? Will it not? And we look at phase transition graphs. So those things excited her immediately. She was the quintessential student, just absorbed information. And, we always said in our engineering academy, go big or go home. Uh, this is a thing you came to do, and we're going to make sure that you do it. And we provided experiences for our students so that they had a level of confidence that I always said bordered on arrogance, to the fact that you put them in situations, made sure the rigor was there, and made sure that they left knowing that there was nothing that they were afraid of tackling. And the fact that they could, learn from failure because so much, we learn from failure. When something crashes, we learn, we put the pieces back together, we see where it failed, and then we make it better after that. But we don't want to make those mistakes in the very beginning. And I think Erin's focus now on being even better than she was, and to be able to, we don't want to be just consumers, we want to be creators. And Erin's a creator. But hat off to her for all the hard work over the years. I remember when she was a little 10-year-old tyke, and now, she's a 29-year-old Olympic gold medalist.
That's excellent. And the reason why I wanted to highlight and illuminate that again, the impact that we as Black teachers have on the lives of students. And I also want to highlight, right? She went to your STEM academy. Erin has degrees in her field. She studied STEM, but she's now made history as the first Black female Olympic gold skater. Nobody told her not to skate. Nobody told her that she has to focus on one thing. Like nobody told her that. Your academy, including you, told that young lady, go out and get it. Go out and do it. And I love the border on arrogance, meaning if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Okay,
Yes.
we're going to be at the height of the height and the top of the craft. But she took that attitude not only in the STEM field and went out and did it as an Olympic athlete. So definitely
Yeah.
shout out
And
to
athletics plays a big part. I was a Division I athlete myself. Uh, all the things that I learned about leadership, about, discipline, about, handling situations. You get to take the last shot. You get to make the free throw. You get to rally your team. I was a point guard, and you get to run the floor. And so having, leaving with that sense that I can, and bringing that to your students. They used to say to me, you just think we can do anything. I said, no, I don't think you can do anything. I know you can do anything. It just set your mind to it. And you have the support, you have all the support here that you need. Just go get it.
So I'm not going to let you sit up here and kind of like graze over that you just said you was a Division I athlete, because people who look at you, Ms. Brookins, they're like, she's a nationally board certified teacher, she's the president, CEO. She sit up here with her pearls. Did y'all hear what she said? She played Division I basketball. But on top of that, I'm gonna drop a fun fact for y'all. She didn't only play Division I basketball. I mean, she played, y'all. She was a Hall of Famer. So we're gonna shout that out. So Brooke, you want to tell the people that you're a 2-time Hall of Famer? You want to let us know why?
Two-time Hall of Famer. At the university, I was a Hall of Famer in my sport. I am the first woman to earn a 4-year letter in the sport of basketball at the University of Florida. And then you, after you're 10 years out, depending on what you do, then the university itself has a Hall of Fame. So you get to step into that Hall of Fame. And my passion was around biomechanical analysis. And so, studying biomechanical analysis, and it's one of those things when you think about in the sports world, and I came to it kind of a roundabout way, because I used to watch people in their sport, and I coached. I was a first player coach at Florida, and thinking about, can you look at an action and determine what is wrong? And I just had this uncanny ability to say, oh, you didn't do this piece, or turn this way, move that way, or do this one particular thing. And so that's what really, really attracted me to biomechanical analysis.
That's again, scholar athlete, two and two, through and through. Um, but I think you point out something excellent. I think one, I already said this, like you are Black history. The things that you have done and that you are accomplished um, are amazing. For the sport of basketball, for the career of STEM, just amazing, amazing, amazing. But you're also a wonderful example, I think, for our young athletes out there about just because you're playing a specific sport, even if you're on scholarship for a specific sport, that doesn't define who you are. You have other
Right.
interests and other things that you want to do. You're able to go for that. Basketball can take you and walk you into doors for free. But at the
Yes.
end of the day,
I left school debt free. Not a dime did I pay for school. I was a scholarship athlete. And I think about that's one of the things in our academy that we made sure they had a sport or a club or something that they were involved with, and primarily a sport, because I used to tell them the more oxygen you get to your brain, the smarter you become. So
Mm,
just breathe hard. Get out there, find something that makes you breathe hard. And I swear it is the truth. um, that you calm yourself, you know how to steel your nerves for what you're about to do or compete in. And I think just athletics itself is a teacher.
mhm.
So therefore, you what you learn there, you carry out through your entire life. I have.
And I dare to say like some of the best teachers were former athletes because of the lessons that you learn in a sport, especially team sports. That camaraderie, that discipline, overcoming adversity together. Tons of lessons learned in the sport. And for folks I know who are former coaches, my husband is a coach as well as a teacher. The skill that you learned by coaching and the way you're able to break that down in the classroom, like those skills actually translate um, for one another. So, I mean, no wonder you out here shining.
Yeah, they translate well. Translate well. It takes all the fear
Natural
out.
leader. Yes, leading in the classroom and on the court. That probably should have been the name of the title of this episode. I love it. Um, I want to go back to your academy. You started a school, right? Again, 38
Yes.
years of teaching, nationally board certified. Then you started a STEM school. Can you tell us about that experience and why you chose to focus on STEM?
Well, I am just high strung sometimes. And I remember, as I'm starting my career and I'm teaching every day, and I'm thinking that this has got to be better than this. And it's got to be more exciting than what we're doing. And so
Mm,
there are some friends of ours. We were at lunch one day and we were thinking about what would be our ideal day. And we started talking about what it would look like, what the building would look like, what our students would be doing, what we would be doing, what we would have, how we would plan. And I'm telling you, on the back of a napkin, we began to write these things down. And then the state of Florida had an RFP for career academies. And we chose engineering because of what was around us in our community. So I went to the EDC and I said, okay, tell me your plans for the next 40 years. I want to know,
mm,
because I'm not preparing kids for now. I'm preparing kids for later. And what's going to be available? What are the needs of this community that a lot of these kids we hope will live in and come back to, so that there's not a brain drain. And
mhm,
then, so to the left of us, our school was Duke Energy. To the right is Lockheed Martin. And then there was a big manufacturing industry at the same time. And we're in horse country. So we decided, after going through all of this, engineering is what we need, and engineering is right next to us. And those two firms became our business partners and still are the business partners that we deal with. And so we decided to put in an RFP to create this engineering school, and
mm.
we won. And
Listen,
so from that day, we are, it has been phenomenal what has happened. And we have a student who has graduated in every field of engineering out there. And I am lucky, I live in DC, and I have 5 of my students who live around me who are engineers. And I get to have dinner with them. Their partners, their children. I got a picture yesterday of a baby in the womb, that we're waiting for. But it is, it's those lifelong bonds that we formed because we were a family there first. And
Mm-hmm.
it has never left us. We never leave each other, because the night that Erin skated, all of us were on the Facebook page and typing and doing all kinds of stuff that, oh my God, she's about to turn the corner. It never stopped. It never stopped. And, we think about it, and she sent out her schedule to all of us right before, okay, all right, guys, I'm going to be on this night. And then, any event in someone's lives, we have one student who is a photographer. So he had sent the pictures into CNN. He had traveled around. So the connection is there. It stays there. And they help each other to this day. They come back and mentor current students who are in school. We are a decorated first robotics team. You name an award and we've won it. So it is one of those things that, I loved my job every single day, just like I love my job now, because, you get to impact a school before. Now you get to impact an entire nation of teachers and have them have access to this process. And there is nothing cooler, I think,
But
than
this
that.
is why for both of those jobs, you're the person for the job. I mean, your joy and your love shines through, but your joy and your love of people, and success for people shines all the way through all of the work that you're doing. I think a major takeaway from what you spoke about and how you started a school, um, you didn't say, I got a business plan. Like, we wrote it on the back of a napkin.
Yeah.
It started with the fact that you dared to dream. And then after you dared to dream, you dared to do. And you did. And you did it big. And I think that it's a lot for folks to think about. I think a lot of times, especially in the current state of education, we feel so stuck. And you say to yourself that there has to be better. But you didn't just say it. You and your folks, you're like, it has to be better and we're going to do better. If better doesn't exist, we're going to create better. And I think that is, again, you're not, I think sometimes we think of folks like you who had like, oh, they have these superpowers. Like, I'm a regular
Mm-mm.
teacher. I was a teacher. I was in the classroom 38 years. I knew that I knew better and I wanted better for children. So I went ahead and created better for my students. And I think that is an amazing story and something that we can all learn from, especially
And
for
I
folks
think
who.
teachers, yeah, they get up every day. Nobody wakes up and says, "Oh, I'm here to do a bad job today."
Mm-hmm.
They want the support. They want, the collaboration. They want anybody to listen and say, I am where the rubber meets the road. These are the needs of these students. Now, how can you support me? And
Mm-hmm.
how can we support them to reach their dreams?
But then even your love of teachers, right? You have a love for students and a love of teachers. Sometimes you go into spaces and some people are taking sides. Like, I got to worry about the teachers. And some folks are like, but what about the students? You're like, no, it's a love of
There's
everybody.
no separation.
Exactly. Exactly. And the pouring into teachers is going to breed that love of students, which for you, especially at your school, created a community. But I think it starts with the first proposition that you say, for National Teaching Boys. Seems like you have to believe in the children you teach. Um, and of course, once you believe, that's when that family camaraderie starts to come. That's when those connections start to come. Because I have somebody who's pouring into me and who loves me beyond this moment in the classroom. They want to
Correct.
see me successful in life. And we're going to continue to cheer for each other and we're going to continue to root for each other. And I think that's super important because we all need to be connected to a community and we all need people to cheer us on in every aspect of life. Whether it's speed skating, whether it's my first baby, whether it's my engineering job, we want people to be proud of us and we need people to pour into us. And the fact that you were able to create that community, for a group of students who are now become family like to you. Um, and in the future, I think is amazing and dope and very inspiring. Again,
I
so for folks out
love
there
I
listening,
love seeing what they're all doing.
but I think beyond like you love seeing what they're all doing, but I think that they love to show you what they're doing
Yes,
because
that is
I
true.
can say definitely for me, I appreciate the folks who have poured into me and who believed in me, especially throughout my education career. And I felt not necessarily like I owed them something, but that they were a part of me. They were a part of my success. And I'm pretty sure students look back at the times that they had in your school, the competitions they went to, the exploratory trips that they went to, the conversations that they may have had with folks, and that was an integral part of who they become today as engineers. But why is STEM so important, right? You could have just built a regular school focused on, anything, but you chose STEM, which we all know, especially for African American folks, is a very underrepresented field in women. Um, it's a very male dominated profession. Why STEM?
Well, I'm a nerd, number one. And they call it whatever they want. I love it. And I remember young in that I wanted to be an astronaut.
Mm,
And because of my age and when I grew up, you're looking at the reasons that I couldn't be. They thought women are supposed to be, secretaries at the time and
mm,
not have these aspirations of science of any kind. And I remember, going into and telling my counselor, this is what I want to be. And she goes, they're not going to let you be that. They didn't even let Black men be that at the time.
mhm.
They're not going to let a Black woman do that. But a Black woman did. She sits on my board, Mae Jemison, thank goodness. And then, I thought you might stop me, but you won't stop me from getting other people ready to do this. And I had the joy of spending, days in the garage of a the chief systems engineer at NASA. My father
Mm,
worked at NASA, and Jacques Palais was a chief systems engineer for the shuttle program. And Jacques taught me things that you just can't imagine. We built planes. He gave me my first flight box, and we would solve problems. And I remember clearly the day when the shuttles used to fly. They had the heat tiles on the outside, and when it came back into the atmosphere, those tiles would come off. And they were doing a process where they scraped the entire shuttle and reattached all the tiles, and each tile has its particular place on the shuttle. And so Jacques and I were thinking about, that's really expensive, how can we do something different? So we took a piece of like some silly putty, a piece of foil, a piece of saran wrap, and a vacuum cleaner. And we said, okay, we're going to take this and let's see if we can put one tile on. And we took it and put it under 5 psi, and the tile stayed. To this day, that is how they put tiles back on the shuttle when it comes back instead of scraping that entire shuttle off. This guy was the coolest guy you could ever imagine. And I remember when he came to visit my students, the day I opened the school, it was a surprise to bring Jacques to them. And he brought the plans for the first shuttle are in a D-ring binder. It's like this big, and he comes in with this thing, and it's everything. If NASA knew now, Jock's not alive, so I can say this now. Left that with me. So my students got to go through all of every single detail of the shuttle and the
awesome.
systems on the shuttle, and it was just amazing. And I thought, these are the experiences. I was enmeshed in an experience that taught me so much. And so we
Mhm,
brought in professionals all the time for our students, for them to talk to think about, how did you get into this career? And then everything that we did within our academy was presentation, construction, and defense in a team, and to a jury of engineers after they finished, so that they could actually take the knowledge they were learning in theory, put it into action to see how it's actually used. So by the time these individuals got to college, it was like, hey, we've done that already.
We did it. We've
We
already
did
done
it.
it.
We did it. Made it seem easy.
The experiences that you've been able to create to children and the access and opportunities you have been able to create for children is something to just illuminate and congratulate. Again, continuing to dare to dream, but then doing, right? Like my students need to have access. I'm going to get them access. My students need to
Yeah,
have
rigor.
opportunities.
They
I'm
need
going to
rigor.
create opportunities. Right? You could have stopped at the school, but you didn't. Through the school, you went ahead and created opportunity and access for students. And again, that's something to be just celebrated and congratulated. When I think about your work and your experience, it brings me to DI. That's like a buzzword now to many in the profession, right? Like we talk a lot about DEI in many professional spaces. But what are your thoughts about that, and as it pertains to the educational space?
I think we started this conversation in the way of thinking about putting excellence in front of students, but also putting mirrors in front of students at the same time. And I think about this because when I grew up, my brothers and I integrated a school. Man, that was hard. Uh,
Mm,
and we saw no one that looked like us all day. And I mean, no one that looked like us all day. I went through all my classes and not saw a teacher, not saw another student that
that
looked
look
like
like
me
you.
as well, because there are so few students of color within the school. And then I thought about, all of the things, and I was constantly thinking, no matter where I was, why aren't there people of color here? Why aren't we having access to, you know, surfing, golf, tennis?
Mm,
So my brothers and I was like, let's do all those things. So we can see people, they can start to see people who look like us. And at the same time, to think about the importance of that belonging. I go back to when you walk into a room, your ability to learn is based on, that fight or flight. You're not learning if you're scared, if your blood pressure is up high, all of these things that people, the air you breathe around you is just negative, and
mm-hmm.
therefore, you're not absorbing in the way that you should. So I think the diversity piece of walking into that room and seeing someone who looks like me, especially someone in a position of leadership who looks like you and in charge of something who looks like you, gives students the ability to say, that can be me, that person understands me. And I think about Denzel when he talked about having, directors. Why does it mean so much to have a Black director? And he gave an example of, what it smells like when that hot comb hits your hair,
Yes,
and
you
how to
had that
direct
experience.
that particular scene. And I'm thinking
Hmm.
this is great, because that is the reason. And it may be a minor thing to somebody, but it makes a difference to share an experience and to share, a culture, to be able to feel at home.
Definitely. And again, giving us the blueprint on how we can write a different narrative for our youth and education. Do that. Be the mirrors. Dare to dream for them and then dare to do. I think that all of this is like right on time for what folks need to hear, especially at this point in what we're going through. And then again, you just keep dropping these little subtle gems. Ms. Brookins, like, oh yeah, me and my brothers was the first integrated school. Ms. Brookins, that's not like that's a big deal. Like that's a huge deal. Again, as I continue to say throughout this program, you are Black History Month. You have broken so many barriers, climbed over so many walls. I mean, and just done and defied so many things that people said black women couldn't and wouldn't do. You have done. So again, a major shout out and thank you to you. Amazing. Right now, though, I want to give you some time to think a Black teacher. So we are going to roll into our Think a Black teacher segment to give you an opportunity to thank some Black teachers out there on our.
I would love that. So I didn't have many Black teachers, but the one that I had that really has left an indelible mark on me was Miss Harris. She was my third grade teacher. I wanted to be her. I wanted to be like her. I made my mother make dresses that whatever Miss Harris wore, I wanted to wear it too. Because Miss Harris was that person who, when I walked into the room, she saw potential. She saw that, and she made me know there's nothing you can't do. You're a smart young woman, and let's jump on it. And I remember Miss Harris saying, you're going to enter the contest that NASA is having for Freedom 7. Freedom 7 was a time capsule that this was 1963. So you got to make a drawing and everything, when you go into space, nobody speaks English out there. So we have to figure out a way to depict who we are as mankind for any, possible interaction with anybody or anything we might find out there. And so I entered this contest and won. And so my drawing was put into the time capsule of Freedom 7 to be opened up. So I thought, that was the coolest thing around, but I never would have done that without her. And I think, a teacher who's currently in the classroom and everybody knows at this point, who teaches with joy and with, everything that epitomizes an MBCT is Juliana Urtubey. She is the 2021 National Teacher of the Year. And I just want to shout out to her in every moment that she is in front of children, the joy that she has, the joy that she brings them, the joy she brings their families, and the understanding that she brings to a community of students that have been marginalized for so long, but she is so good at it. And I just want to thank her from the bottom of my heart.
Yes, Juliana Urtubey, that is my girl. She was a past guest and will be a guest this coming Thursday on our anniversary show. So shout out to Julia Urtubey. She is amazing. Definitely amazing. Another thing I want to definitely point out, and this might seem like a minor thing, but I think it's big. Ms. Brookins, not only have you done all of this work in your life, like you've done it in style. Those pearls, honey. You have done it in style. I remember us talking in the pre-show, and you talked about how you and your girls will walk into an engineering or a STEM or robotics competition, and the girls will have on pearls. Okay, so probably pearls and pumps. Can you tell us why you push that decorum?
We didn't do pumps. We just did pearls. I can't walk in pumps. I have a pair under my desk at work, but I only put them on for special occasions. But I think it was one of those things where, people thought girls don't use tools. We can build anything. Believe me, girls in my academy, they can build anything. They can design it, they can animate it, they can stress test it, and they can build it. So it was, we started this club, Girls with Tools. And I'm thinking, I'm going to teach you how to use every tool imaginable, even down to a 6-axis CNC machine. And therefore, who can stop us? And we're going to do it. And we're going to do it in style. And we're going to make sure when they go home and tell their, parents, oh my God, these women wearing pearls beat us at our own game. So that's where the pearls come from. So we've always worn them, T-shirts or not. I'll tell people I'll cut grass in pearls. It doesn't matter to me. But it is one of those things where, some people came in at what people would call girly girls, and you can still be a girly girl and use tools. This is a great thing. It's like, come on, we got it. So let's build this robot.
That's why I thought it was important to point that out. Like I said, people are like, oh, pearls. No, it's a big thing because of what it represents.
Yeah.
And again, I love that. I love that the image that you're going to leave in people's minds as you what you said beat them at their own game is
Yeah.
super dynamic. I think it's excellent. And then again, what you represent in the image of what that represents for young women who are in touch with their femininity, but you can still fix a car, use a tool, use a
Mhm.
jackhammer, and do it all in pearls. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes. We are winding down on time. So I always like to give my guests just a final moment to say anything to our viewers who are out there watching and that were with us here today.
So I would say to everyone, all of us are teachers, and teach the babies and teach them well. We have no time to waste. Um, any chance that you get to go through board certification, please do that. But any chance that you get to become a better teacher for students, to support them in everything that they do, to make sure we understand and form these lifelong bonds and relationships with them that they can carry throughout their lives and reach back and pull someone forward with them, and to make sure that they feel supported, they feel a sense of belonging, and they also feel a sense of can do, because there is nothing out there that, we have the ability, and we know more than we're doing. And if we can know more, we can do more. Somebody's going to cure cancer. Somebody's going to get us to Mars. Somebody is going to cure COVID. So if it is because we put them in a situation within a classroom and we provided that rigor, um, I just want to thank a teacher for all you do every single day.
Yes. And we want to thank you here at Building the Black Educator Pipeline, Ms. Brookins. To thank a teacher, we thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing, all that you have done, the doors that you've opened for so many of us. And we appreciate you stopping by our show today. For my folks out there, please tune in next week. It is the 1 year anniversary show of Building the Black Educator Pipeline. It's only because of you guys that we're able to like do this and I have this success. When I tell y'all, if I would have thought I would have been here a year later, still talking to these amazing people, I just wouldn't have believed you. But I am. So please join us next week for our 1 year anniversary show. We have a multitude of past guests coming back to join us. But Ms. Brookins, we thank you for stopping by today. We appreciate you and would love to have you back on a future show. But thank you for stopping by today.
Thank you. I'm humbled. And thank you, Sharif El Mekki.
Yes, my boss, my CEO, for making this all happen. Thank you. But see you guys next week, same place, same time, everybody. Peace.